Hello, I'm Marcel Wieder and welcome to The Point. It's budget day here at Queen's Park and we have a special edition. We'll have Craig Hughson go through the facts and figures with us, and we have Mitzie Hunter, the Associate Finance Minister, as well as PC Finance Critic Vic Fedeli and NDP Finance Critic Catherine Fife. All that on this special edition of The Point. I'm with Craig Hughson, who was in the budget lockup and is now joining us to tell us the details of the Ontario 2016 budget. Craig, good to have you back.
Oh, thank you. Good to be here.
So, quickly give us a highlight reel of what's in this budget.
Well, off the top, a lot of stuff that we have seen or heard previously. So not a whole lot of new material in Susan's speech today. We did learn that we have a $5.7 billion deficit this year. The government's still committed to eliminating the deficit for 2017-18, so that should be good news for Bay Street. In the budget today, we heard a little bit more about cap and trade. Of course, the Premier and the Finance Minister talked about it earlier in the week, but the price of gas for consumers here in Ontario is going to go up about 5 cents a litre. The price of natural gas for those that heat their homes with natural gas is going to go up about $5 a month. So some tough pill to swallow for some.
No new taxes. So personal taxes stay the same. Has there been anything in terms of a cut announced?
Well, drivers in the province will be happy to know that the $30 drive clean fee has been eliminated. So there's a savings for consumers in Ontario today. Fees were indicated in a couple of budgets ago that they would go up with inflation, so we could see some fee increases.
So Craig, in this budget, I understand that infrastructure has now been extended an extra 2 years with additional dollars?
Yeah, so now the unprecedented infrastructure spending announced last budget and the budget before has expanded even more. We have to $160 billion over 12 years for the traditional projects we've seen this government prioritize: public transit, colleges, universities, schools, hospitals.
Now, does any of this include the money that the federal government is going to allocate for infrastructure investments?
This is Ontario's portion. The Premier's been quite clear that she wants and expects the new government and the Trudeau government in Ottawa to contribute and be a partner, and we expect that will be matched, or the province will be fighting for additional funds to keep up with the provincial
investment. So this
investment.
is really good news for a lot of municipalities that have infrastructure issues, needing new bridges, new sewers, transit. That's all going to be covered under this fund.
Yeah, so the transit, the GTHA, we're going to see a couple of LRT projects get greenlit, and money will be banked for that. We're going to see the Year Ontario LRT project get some funds. The Hamilton LRT project get some funds. A lot of money going towards improving GO and Metrolink service.
And in terms of one of the other areas that is being announced that got a little bit of a surprise is the funding for hospitals. How much did hospitals receive?
A $345 million upshot for hospital budgets in this budget, and that's the first increase that hospitals have seen for operating spending in 5 years. So that'll be a very welcome bit of cash influx for these hospitals.
In terms of the last budget, there was mention about the sharing economy, which has got a lot of attention. Is there any reference to that in this budget?
Yes, well, Minister Sousa announced that he would be looking at Airbnb and reminding people that host as Airbnb hosts here in Ontario to file taxes and claim that income. He announced that just recently.
So really not a lot of new initiatives in this budget. Restatements of past commitments and a few little wrinkles here and there, especially in the cap and trade, but that was already announced well before the budget was even delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. They're reminding people of the good things they've done over the last several budgets, and not a whole lot new here today.
Thank you, Craig, for bringing us an analysis. I was joined by my colleague, Craig Hughson from Aurora Strategy Group. We'll be back in a moment. Joining me to discuss today's budget is Associate Finance Minister Mitzie Hunter. Minister, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
In a nutshell, give us the highlights of today's budget.
Well, today was all about how we focus on Ontario's economy, ensuring that we're growing jobs, that we're growing the economy, and that we're really addressing those things that people are concerned about. So, investments in infrastructure. We announced today the largest investments in Ontario's infrastructure at $160 billion over 12 years.
And in terms of the centerpiece of this budget, the introduction of a cap and trade system,
Yes.
We now have, it was already mentioned prior to the minister delivering the budget, that home gas costs would go up $5 a month, that having gasoline would go up 5 cents a liter for automobiles. Those are hits that affect people's pocketbooks. How is the government responding to that?
Well, we actually have many investments to make everyday life easier for people. We announced the Drive Clean fee will be removed. We've already announced that there will be the debt retirement charge will be removed from people's hydro bills. So really this is about ensuring that recognizing that climate change is real and that there are behaviors that we can change to reduce the impact on our climate. And that affects all of us. So when Ontario closed all of the coal plants,
right.
That has cleaned our air, the air that we all breathe, that we all share. We think about the health impacts of that for individuals that suffer from asthma. So, we have to make some of those decisions that are for the betterment of our environment and for Ontario's future.
Now, I did read that Prime Minister Trudeau and Finance Minister Morneau have indicated that they're prepared to look at revisions to the Canada Pension Plan. How will that impact on Ontario's program?
Well, part of our commitment is to ensuring that Ontario remains at the table to meet with the federal finance minister as well as the finance ministers across the province when they discuss CPP and how that enhancement will occur, when will it occur. So those are all unknowns, but we're committed to being at that table and ensuring that we continue to play our part when it comes to retirement security, both here in Ontario and across the country.
As a Toronto MPP,
Yes.
how do you find the budget? Is there enough investments that are going to help the people in this city move forward?
I am so thrilled by this budget. I'm very proud of our government, our commitments that we've made. We're moving forward on all of those commitments. In my community in Scarborough-Guildwood, people are concerned about the economy, they're concerned about jobs, they want access to adequate transit system, and so all of the investments that we're making in infrastructure, in the skills and talents of our people will benefit my community, and so I'm so thrilled with this budget and can't wait to go out and talk to people about it, share the information, ensuring that the young people who live in my community know that they don't have to be deterred about going to post-secondary education because of tuition fees. If they have incomes under $50,000, that tuition is essentially free. So that's going to be very, very well received by people in my community.
Minister, thank you for joining us today. I was chatting with Associate Finance Minister Mitzie Hunter, the Provincial Member of Parliament for Scarborough-Guildwood. We'll be back in a moment. Joining me is Finance Critic Vic Fedeli. Thank you so much for joining us today.
It's always a pleasure, Marcel.
So, another Liberal budget. Tell us the straight goods.
Well, the bottom line is that when you wake up tomorrow morning in the province of Ontario, your life will be more expensive. Everything, the price of everything is going up.
So we got more for gasoline, 5 cents if I understand. Home gas for their heating is going up $5 a month. What else is going up?
Well, of course, you have your traditional tax on alcohol and cigarettes. You've got those taxes. You've got the
sin taxes, yes.
sin taxes, cap and trade tax will put a cost on your gasoline and your home heating, as you mentioned. You will now lose the, when you take your kids to sporting events and you had the children's activity tax credit, that's gone.
Oh, is
When you do home improvements as a senior, you've got the healthy home renovation tax credit, gone. The student tax credit, gone. So just about everything, whether you're a child, a family, or a senior, you're going to be paying more money in the province of Ontario.
Now, some people have said that we have to do the cap and trade because we want to get to our levels in Kyoto targets, and this is really the only way to do that. Is there another alternative that the Progressive Conservatives see in order to be able to get to that level?
Oh, look, of course. I think climate change, we understand climate change is a given. Let's not even debate that. The fact is, this government is taking the revenue from the cap and trade and using it all across the board. Here's a great example. They're going to give every family $2 off their hydro bill every month with that cap and trade money. How is that supposed to create any savings in greenhouse gases? I mean, this will be used as a political fund, a slush fund for them, but we're talking about $1.9 billion annually now that they'll use to pay existing programs they were already going to be doing. That's the real sin in this, is that they're taking the goodwill that people have given them looking for climate change, using it as a cash grab to lower their deficit.
What other areas are you concerned? There's something for everyone in this budget. I hear that there's $345 million for hospitals. That's got to be a good thing.
Well, what he forgot to mention when Charles Sousa announced the $345 million, which is new money for hospitals, that budget has been frozen for 4 years. He forgot to mention that he's clawing back $107 million a year to hospitals that used to go to them every year from the Ontario Lottery Corporation. That money is now gone. So it's not really $345 million anymore. It's minus $107 million as well.
So where's that $107 million going then?
Well, they've got a massive deficit in the province of Ontario to pay off, and this is one way they're doing it. Here's another way. You heard the great news that they're going to have free tuition for students.
Anyone under $50,000?
You would think that's wonderful news.
Sounds good to me.
Well, families were receiving tax credits of about $140 million. That's gone now. That's a savings to the government, and 30% of the population, 30% of the students, 30% will get the free tuition. 70% of all students in the province of Ontario don't qualify fully. So again, the devil's in the details, and while he made a wonderful announcement, he forgot to tell you that it really only is good for 30% of the students in Ontario.
So the old adage, the government giveth and the government taketh away.
Yes, one hand they did, and with the other hand, and they took a bigger hunk away.
So what would the priorities of a Conservative government be in terms of taking Ontario forward?
Well, here's a great example and another huge disappointment in the budget. I live in North Bay. My riding is Nipissing. I'm a northern boy, born and raised there. The words Northern Ontario were never mentioned in his entire speech, and he had many opportunities.
Right.
The Ring of Fire, which is the largest deposit, the largest potential mine in North America, was not mentioned in the budget. You talk about job creation. This is a $60 billion opportunity. It's in the printed budget, a paragraph, which is the identical paragraph that was in last year's budget, which is the identical paragraph that was in the 2014 budget. So they had a re-announcement today of a re-announcement of a 2014 announcement.
Okay, so Northern Ontario, obviously, from your perspective, has not been looked after in this budget. Some of the economic drivers, the Ring of Fire has not been. What other areas would a Conservative government want to accentuate, want to help drive the economy forward with?
Well, let me just clarify on that Northern Ontario. Look, the Ring of Fire isn't just a play for Northern Ontario. There was one engineering company here in Toronto, just off the QEW, that was earning $5 million a month in revenue from one of the Ring of Fire companies doing engineering and research. This is not a Northern Ontario story. One company, before they abandoned Ontario and in fact left Canada, they had spent $700 million on their stake in the Ring of Fire. A big chunk of it here in Toronto with engineering firms, design firms, mining firms, lawyers, accountants. So this isn't a Northern Ontario play. That's a big all-Ontario play.
That's a good perspective.
Yeah, but there are so many other areas that the budget could have tackled. For instance, it doesn't really talk about matching the education demands with the demands of employers. We have a mismatch here in Ontario. We have a province with people without jobs, but we also have jobs without people. There's a disconnect between what we're teaching our kids and what they need to be able to go and get a good job. That could have been a spectacular highlight.
Any other areas that you would focus on health, on transportation? There's a large portion of this budget was devoted to infrastructure investments.
Well, when you talk about that, here's where the rub comes in. It's now proved in this budget, as it was in the fall economic statement, as was an announcement from the Financial Accountability Officer, that we now know for sure that the sale of Hydro One, that money is really for deficit reduction. That's what it's for now. They actually do put the money into transit, but the money that was already booked in transit, they've now taken out and used it to pay off the deficit. So it's a shell game of paying off the deficit by selling Hydro One. That, I think, was very disconcerting. So when you talk about infrastructure, it's the same announcement as 2014, same announcement as 2015.
Well, they've extended an extra 2 years and another $20 billion, I believe,
so
on top of.
It's 2 years and just over $20 billion.
Yeah.
So the amount per year doesn't change, but they're talking about dollars 12 years from now. They're not going to be around 12 years from now, so it's easy to make promises 12 years away. So it sounds like it's an increase. It's not. The spending on infrastructure next year and the year after is identical. So that's just talking points.
Any final thoughts?
It's sad that everything you do in the province of Ontario tomorrow morning will now cost you more money.
Mr. Fedeli, thank you so much for joining me.
It's always a pleasure, Marcel. Thank you.
Finance critic Vic Fedeli from the riding of Nipissing. We'll be back in a moment. Joining me now is NDP finance critic and Kitchener-Waterloo member of provincial parliament, Catherine Fife. So good to have you with us.
It's a pleasure to be here again this year.
Again?
Yes.
Thank you. So we have another Liberal budget. And I understand the NDP is not happy with some of the provisions inside it.
Yeah, we have some concerns. This is listed as a jobs budget. However, the projections contained within, the minister has done a downgrade by 60,000 jobs. In this economy, we should be seeing a massive amount of investment given the low dollar. And yet the high price of electricity is pushing people and investment away. And so what we fundamentally believe is that there's a crisis of confidence in our economy in the province of Ontario.
So if you were the finance minister, what would your priorities be?
Well, what we've been asking this government for is strategic investment in the economy. We have the highest youth unemployment in the entire country. We would love to see them ensure that youth in the province actually have an opportunity to get in the door and get that experience. That's one of the reasons that we did create the job creation tax credit. What is really missing from this budget, from a social infrastructure perspective, is investment in childcare. The return on investment for childcare is well known. The evidence is there, the research is there. We heard this Premier said that she was going to be nonpartisan and pay attention to the evidence and make research-based decisions, nothing for childcare. And finally, the cost of energy. Selling off Hydro One is seen across the province, and I think that Ontarians see through this, that it simply is a quick cash grab. to make sure to make this government look like they're going to balance the budget and address the deficit. We know that it will increase the cost of electricity. As I already mentioned, this is a deterrent for investment. You're not going to draw companies into the province of Ontario if you have one of the highest electricity rates in Canada. Nor, as the AG pointed out, if you're giving certain bits of pieces of money to certain companies behind closed doors without a public process, that suggests to potential investors that you have to be a friend of Liberals in order to gain some funding. So we'd like to see a very transparent program around economic development from this ministry. We concur with the AG's recommendations that needs to be more transparent. So if you look at the overall picture of where we are, we need to get youth engaged back into the employment. We need to look at a more transparent way of supporting businesses, particularly small and medium-sized businesses, and we must stop the sell-off of Hydro One so that we can at least retain and contain some of those electricity costs going forward.
Now, in this budget, we had a front and center was about two things. It was about the cap and trade and this new tuition program that the government has introduced. Let's start on the cap and trade.
Sure.
That must be something that environmentalists and others have long been advocating.
Of course. Now, and for us New Democrats, our record on cap and trade and on the green economy is very clear. Climate change is real. You can't fight it anymore. It's right here. We're living it, and there is a cost to not taking action. That said, today's plan that came out, again, there is a lack of transparency on where that funding is going to be going, the money that the government hopes to pull in. Apparently in the first year they're looking at $478 million. It will go through consolidated revenue. It's supposed to be reinvested in the green economy and to reduce greenhouse gases. That's what we want to see. That's the goal. But there was no indication in the legislation or in the bill as it stands right now that will be the case. But there's also ultimately an issue of fairness, and this government has given the large emitters a grace period of 3 years, yet you and I and the most poor people in the province of Ontario are going to see their gas prices go up and their heating costs go up. So there's really a fundamental issue of fairness as we see it, and we need to pull back the layers on this announcement and on this legislation to ensure that cap and trade going forward is going to meet the objectives of reducing greenhouse gases, but also not grow the greater inequality that we see in the province of Ontario.
And the other centerpiece of this budget is the revised tuition program that's now, according to the government, allowing individuals and families under $50,000 basically free post-secondary education.
Yeah, so this would be the shiny bauble, I think, in this budget. The entire goal, I think, or the premise of this plan is built on a tuition rate of $6,160. Well, tuition rates are the highest in Canada. At the same time that they've announced this consolidated or repackaging of all of these granting programs, we have to see the details to see if the ultimate goal will actually benefit those families that do have an income under $50,000, and if it really will be free. Because I think you and I both know that nothing really is free, and that there is a cost to policies and strategies that are not fully costed out or fully thought out. For instance, they had announced the 30% tuition grant in two elections ago, and that turned out to be a complete failure. So we're happy to see that gone, but we want to make sure that it's replaced with something that actually is going to work.
Finally, one area that your party is being a strong advocate has to deal with the sale of Hydro One and the continuing privatization of the electrical system.
Yes.
There was some mention in the budget, but what's your take on this?
Well, this government doesn't want to hear from the people on Hydro One. And you know, the bulk of the feedback that this government received online, for instance, it was the number one issue: do not continue the sell-off of Hydro One. People recognize that it's a quick cash grab, and that in the long term, we're all going to pay more because of that decision. This government is dedicated to moving forward with that sell-off, regardless of how much pressure we put on them, regardless of what the people of this province say. And we now actually have the Financial Accountability Officer who has confirmed that from a fiscally responsible method, this actually will end up costing us more, past that 2018 budget line. And so this is just smoke and mirrors for this government. It is so disappointing to see them move ahead with this sell-off of a public asset, which helps us invest in healthcare and education.
Member, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Chatting with me was NDP Finance Critic Catherine Fife. We'll be back in a moment. Thank you for joining us on this special Budget Day edition of The Point. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter @ThePointTV. I'm Marcel Wieder. See you again next time on The Point.